Welcome to Soul Lab, a Christian-based podcast utilizing logic, history, science, and scripture to better understand the Christian faith. And now your hosts, Delaney and AJ.
Hello and welcome back to Soul Lab. I'm your host, Delaney.
And I'm AJ.
And we're here with AJ's mom, Carrie Goodwin. How are you doing?
Great. How are you today?
We're doing good.
We're
happy
doing
to have you.
awesome.
Yeah.
This is really, really exciting. So the reason that we get to have my beautiful, amazing mother on today is because my mom has an amazing story of her life with a very particular nonprofit. And it ties in with a subject that we've really been wanting to talk about, something that we think is really important in our Christian walk. And so just to kind of give an outline or a teaser, so the subject we're talking about today is obedience, the power of obedience, the importance of obedience. What does obedience look like and what does that mean?
I like that.
And we're going to be tying that in with this amazing, amazing organization that serves thousands of kids with special needs called Special Kids that my mother was the founder of.
But before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are outside of Special Kids?
Oh, I am AJ's mom,
Okay.
but I'm also mom to several others.
Yes.
We have 5 children total. And I'm retired now, retired nurse, and play around with Special Kids and board member, and just blessed to get to have the time to bring Special Kids to Chattanooga now, along with a wonderful group of other people.
Amazing. Love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually just a little teaser, but there's a really, really incredible thing that's going on right now with Special Kids, the nonprofit, which we'll dive into a little bit more later, and my mother's journey with it. So I'm really, really excited about this topic, for one, because obedience is, I think, one of the most, It's one of the topics in Christianity or in discipleship that I think is least discussed, and yet I think is like one of the most critical things we need to be talking about. That's number one reason I'm super excited. Number two is because Special Kids is just an amazing organization. I'm a huge supporter of theirs. For those that don't know, I also sit on the board and have for quite some time, but want to see them thrive. So, all right, we ready?
I think we're ready. Yeah.
Let's dive into it. So, for starters, let's talk about, now, I guess I've said why this is important for me, but why is obedience, having this conversation, important for maybe both of you? Or do you, what made you want to have the conversation?
Yeah, so I think for me personally, I think obedience can be overlooked so much because for some people, it can be very subtle. Is it obedience or is it just something that popped in my head? So talking more about that, and I think we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but sometimes I don't know if the idea is mine or if it's an idea that God has put in my head. So that's kind of the fun thing about it. But to me, and from what I read in the Bible, obedience is an outward sign of faith. It is really a show of your action that you believe what God's telling you to do. So that's the foundation for it. AJ once said, and this has really been funny because it really hit me between the eyes. AJ didn't hit me between the eyes, this thing did, but he had read this somewhere that your obedience is someone else's miracle. And I love that because it's so true. When I think about the organization I'm involved in with helping children, because one person said yes, that means thousands of other people their lives are changed forever. And I tear up talking about that quite a bit, just because when you see a child walk down a hall because you said yes 20 years ago, that is life-changing.
Yeah.
Because it's not really about me. God can use anybody to get his work done. He didn't need me to say yes. But there are times where you might be at a grocery store and you just get this little inkling that you need to pay for the person in front of you.
Yeah.
Maybe you should follow that. So that's to me what obedience is about. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's very, very direct.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't remember, maybe you do, I can't remember where I heard that phrase.
I was trying to remember that too.
It wasn't, I can't claim it. I wish I was intelligent enough to come up with that.
In a book.
Was the Circle Maker.
Oh, I
was.
love the Circle Maker.
The funny thing is, you recommended for me to read that book.
You read the miniature.
I read the miniature one thinking it was the book.
And I was like, no, here's the book.
Yeah. I was like, man, it's kind of a short book.
Yeah.
I read it's basically like the notes version, thinking it was the whole book. And then I read the actual book, and he says that towards the end.
I love that book.
Yeah. It's all about praying circles around what you believe that the Holy Spirit's guiding you towards.
You get the author's name.
Yeah, and basically obedience is a demonstration of our by our actions, just by what we profess with our mouths and our beliefs. It puts that into action. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. It's the idea that, what is it, James? So it's James 14:26. That for the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead. So we talk about this in our episode on saved by grace or saved by works and the differences, or what could that, or how are we properly saved? And we talk about the idea that it's like your actions don't determine if you're saved, but they're a good indicator if you're living out your true beliefs. And we talk about how like your actions show what you genuinely believe. And I think obedience is a good sign of that, in my opinion. If you're being obedient to the Holy Spirit and to God, I feel like that's action showing you genuinely believe what you say you believe. So I hope I'm explaining that well.
No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the funny part about it is you don't have to be this perfect Christian to be doing God's will and listening. I think once you're a Christian, the Holy Spirit gives you these cues. You may not be living the perfect life, but he's going to use you. I know 26 years ago, I was not just this go to church every Sunday person. I love Jesus, but I wasn't doing everything just so perfect. But God put this on my heart along with my father and other people in my life, because I did not do this alone. This was God and a lot of other people along with my dad. So he can use us all in any stage of our life. And I think that's what's so cool about being a believer.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Tell us a little bit about that and how Special Kids started, like how it came to be.
First off, Special Kids it's in Murfreesboro, Tennessee originally.
Okay.
I was a nurse for children with special needs here in Chattanooga. My husband was transferred to Murfreesboro.
Okay.
At the same time, the center I was working for, children were needing care that the insurance could not pay for. So it didn't make sense for them financially to allow them to be there. So they were asking us to discharge them. And I came home crying one day and my dad happened, and I say that because he wasn't there every day, and he happened to be there on a day I came home crying. And he said, "Honey, let's just do something about it." And those were his exact words.
Yeah.
So that was the fun thing. We moved to Murfreesboro, did an analysis. The need was great there. Been there for 26 years to provide therapy and nursing services for the children in Rutherford County and I think 11 or 12 other counties.
Okay, nice.
So people come from all over, have even come from Chattanooga to there at the time. So now we are in a large part because AJ pushed and pushed and pushed. Said it's time to bring one to Chattanooga.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just Chris Trulove, the executive director, and everybody pitched in and again did a market analysis. There are thousands, and I do mean several thousand children waiting on services right now in this community. North Georgia, Chattanooga, Cleveland, all those communities, not just Chattanooga. We call it Chattanooga.
Yeah.
But centrally located for everybody.
Yeah. I remember when it was first being discussed, moving to Chattanooga, and I just kind of got curious, and I went around to some mental health clinics and like other areas that serve special needs. And I was asking how long their wait list was, and it was like 6 months to a year sometimes. I was like, that's insane. And I've heard even longer from other places too.
Yeah.
That's very long. Yeah.
What's really sad about that, and then we can really, obedience is the focus, but what's really sad about that is you have a child with a birth injury. So that child's just born. They don't have 6 months to be on a waiting list.
Yeah.
The injury that just could be temporary now became permanent. And that's life altering. So we have to get these children in here and get them seen. So, but it's all about obedience. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So whenever your father said to you, let's do something about it. So that started the process of all the steps that had to be taken to get Special Kids in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, founded. And after that, there's probably thousands of more steps that had to happen. And you're having to do this at the time that are you still working at the time, or did you have to leave your work and do this?
I was not working at the time.
Okay. So you had to fully commit to this.
Yes.
Right.
Luckily, I had a wonderful husband who let me do nothing but work on Special Kids with no money.
Yes.
At a time where we didn't have a lot of money. We weren't wealthy people.
So that's the point I want to hit on is It wasn't convenient financially because I know where we were in that place and time. And I think we were living on the farm, I think.
We were living on
in the little house on the farm.
900 square feet with 4 children
Yeah.
on a farm.
Yeah, we were living on this little blueberry patch, this little house on this little blueberry.
were.
It's actually a pretty big blueberry patch, but it was on the farm. The house was small.
The house was teeny.
Yeah, I'll never
I've been
forget it.
inside. I
She
went
actually got
inside.
to go to it.
I
one
went
day,
to
which is kinda
Murfreesboro
cool.
a few years ago and went inside. There were people living there. They let us in, and
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
very tiny.
Yeah, it's really
they
small.
also had a big family living in there.
But
It was fun.
anyways, I mean, we were blessed with a roof, but we definitely weren't living lavishly. And on top of that, this itself, I think, was a very cumbersome project to work on at a time where we didn't even have it wasn't a good time financially to even do something like that. So it was hard work. It was risky. It was difficult. It was
overwhelming.
cumbersome. It was overwhelming. I say that to say obedience is rarely convenient.
I was gonna say it's not always fun. In fact, often it's
very rarely fun.
not. Yeah, you have to get out of
Yep.
your comfort zone, which is
Yep.
super important.
So I that's a really important topic I want to hit on is the idea that obedience is rarely convenient. It's usually work, cumbersome, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's if you feel good after doing something you should be obedient to, that's great. But most people you talk to that are doing something they feel like God called them to do, it's hard work and it's stress. But that's just part of it. That's just, you have to do that. I've had several times in my life where I have been exhausted at the end of the day and all I want to do is go home and do something relaxing. And I get someone texts me and I can just tell they're not doing well. So I'm like, man, I don't want to deal with this right now. I just want to relax. So I call them anyways. I'm like, hey, are you all right? And they're like, no, I'm suicidal, or I just got fired from work. My mom just died. And it's in the moment, I'm like, gosh, I don't want to be having this hard conversation right now. I feel for them, but I'm like, man, I'm kind of at my wit's end today. But you push through and you do what you feel like the Holy Spirit's calling you to do. And that's just one example of many that I'm sure people could give about their experiences. But I say that to say, obedience sounds like this nice, cute thing. It's cumbersome.
And it doesn't always make sense, right? Sometimes we think
Right.
this doesn't logically make sense, so I shouldn't do it. That's not always the case. Sometimes what we're called to
for
do
sure.
is not logical.
Yes. And what I will say, this wasn't this huge, I'm making this big sacrifice type of thing at all. It was very, very clear. My father and I had prayed and prayed and prayed to make sure that this was not my plans, but,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
his plan. But I never once felt burdened. And I think God gave us this supernatural peace. I was going into a new community. I really
Yeah.
didn't know any of the people in there besides my family, and doors were just being open. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. It was a very clear path that I was supposed to take.
Yeah. I'd be really curious to hear. I never thought about this until just now. I kind of want to hear Dad's side of it, because imagine if you were the breadwinner of the family, you were the breadwinner, and I came to you and I was like, hey, I'm quitting my job. I want to start this nonprofit. We're going to rely solely on your income, and it's going to be just enough to feed us and our kids and our dog. I think we had a dog. And you're like, I'm sure Dad was like, all right. I know he was like, all right, let's do it. But I'm sure there's a piece of his mind that's like, dang, what if this doesn't work out? And I've got to provide for this whole family. And what if
I don't think he ever.
I'd be curious what his thoughts were.
Yeah, I would too. He never said no, or
Yeah.
you have to remember too, this was a time I used to call myself a single parent with 2 incomes. He was working for a corporation. He was traveling Monday through Friday. So not only were we doing this, I didn't have a husband at home helping with children until the
Yeah.
weekend. So poor guy, he comes home exhausted. I'm probably asking him to do stuff on weekends, which I know I was actually, because
Yeah.
we didn't have all the money in the world. So we were painting, we were hanging sheetrock, we were doing all these things to make the money we had, the little batch of money.
Yeah.
In the middle of all this, my father unexpectedly passes away, and he was selling a boat and this and that to give us money to do special kids.
Yeah.
Now that money was gone
Yeah.
because it was frozen in an estate. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that piece.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. He passed away, I think, was it a few weeks before Special Kids opened, or?
it was,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Routine heart surgery. So
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
yeah.
I didn't know that. I've forgotten though. Wow. That's so. Imagine when we get to speak to him in heaven and hearing,
fun.
like him hearing kind of where it is now and seeing that. How incredible!
It was really neat because he went in to have routine heart surgery so he could be ready for the grand opening day.
Oh,
It was just a valve replacement, but
Okay.
he had underlying conditions. This was not.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope one day you're able to sit down and take notes on everything. I didn't even think about the fact of the financial support he was going to make towards Special Kids, and then that there was a roadblock put there. But I know that we've talked about there were hundreds of things that got in the way of this mission.
Right.
I would love for you to write a book one day, because it was like there were hundreds of obstacles that were in the way that you guys had to work through, and there was like just as many miracles that helped make it happen, which is just crazy.
Literally, I'm a nurse right out of nursing school. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I had surely never done something this magnitude. And so now my father passes away unexpectedly.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through this project, or 3/4, and I have no money because the state you can't spend money when a person passes away. It stops. So I'm trying to figure out how to write grants. I'm writing a grant. I've never written a grant in my life. And the wonderful people at the Christy Houston Foundation in Murfreesboro just guided me every little step. Just
amazing.
God just kept putting wonderful people in my path is really what happened.
Yeah.
It's really incredible.
It was not about one person's obedience. It was about a community's obedience.
Okay.
So that was the cool thing. One person said yes, and then all these other people said yes too.
That's incredible.
It's a lot of
It is
fun.
really
All the
incredible.
pieces coming together.
So switching gears a little bit, let's talk about the general idea of what gets in the way of obedience.
Wow.
This is for both of you.
Gets in the way. Uncertainty, I think, is the number one thing that gets. Is it my voice or is it God's voice? And I think you do have to question that, because the enemy can put things in your path to make you think
Yeah.
it's not him.
Yeah.
So how do you think you tell the difference between your voice and God's voice?
Wow, that's the tough part. A lot of praying. All you can do is pray.
Yeah.
So for me, and sometimes I put a fleece. That's the big one. I don't know if I don't even know where the verse is about a fleece, but it's really cool. It's my father, Dick Clino, did that
I think it's in
about
Judges, if I'm not
Murfreesboro.
wrong. Yeah.
He put a fleece that the last certain amount had to come from somewhere else, and it did,
Yeah.
etc.
For those of you who don't know, the fleece is, what was the name of the gentleman?
I'd have to Google it.
He's one of my favorite. Gideon. Wasn't it Gideon? It was Gideon, right?
I think it was
I think it was
Gideon.
Gideon.
Okay.
Yeah, he uses a fleece as a wool, just has to confirm. Basically, Gideon put a fleece. He felt called to do something. He put a fleece out to confirm that the calling was of God, and a fleece is from a sheep, so the wool of the sheep. And he put it out in the evening and said, in the morning, if it's very wet, that means that it was the correct answer. So he went out there, wrung out the fleece, and the ground around was all dried, and it was completely wet. And he was like, that's a sign from God. But Gideon was like, wait a minute, fleece absorbs, so that can't be it. So he was like, okay, God, I'm going to test you one more time. Tomorrow morning, have it be the opposite. Have the fleece be dry and the ground be wet. And the next morning it was. And he was like, okay, that's not natural. So must be a sign from God.
Yeah. So like when Christians say we lay out our fleece, we mean we say, hey, God, if I'm going to do this thing, it's not that we're bargaining. We're just like, look, I need a sign.
Yeah. And
like,
we don't put fleeces out anymore, like little
Like
fleeces.
physical fleeces,
We don't put the sheep's wool out. It's more of
Yeah.
a metaphor of kind of these concepts.
But did you say your father had a fleece that
He did. He had a fleece about a certain amount he wanted to pay for the land.
Okay.
And it was 5,000 over. And he said does not meet the fleece. So then it happened again, and he got the land. And then my stepbrother ended up giving the last 5,000, which was another part of the miracle.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing about a fleece, it feels a little weird because I feel like I'm testing God, and I'm not testing God at all. I'm testing me. Really.
Yes. That is such a good way to put it. It's not that you're like trying to manipulate God or use God or test God. You're just trying to say, look, God, I'm human. I sometimes struggle with, is this my voice or is this yours? I just kind of need a clear answer. And God will sometimes find ways to make it obvious. It's like whenever something, I live off of the principle, when something happens that is like statistically incredibly unlikely, like 1 in a million chance should not have happened, and it happens, it's okay, maybe that's God trying to like say something to me. But I do think you have to be really careful, to your point, about, is this my desire or is it God's desire? And as Christians, we talk about listening to the Holy Spirit to guide us. Jesus says, my sheep know my voice and they follow me. And I think that's a really critical phrase, because it's the idea that like if we do spend time in the Word, we do spend time in prayer, we do spend time not just necessarily at church, but around similar followers, and we do our best to fight away the devil and his tactics, those things do bring us closer to Christ. And I think it makes it a lot easier to hear the voice of God and feel the Holy Spirit when you're leading you in the right direction. It gets easier to tell what you should and shouldn't do. And then
Sure, yeah.
when you understand scripture better too, it's almost like a guidebook that can kind of reaffirm, okay, I feel like I should do this. And then scripture can either support or deny that, can
Right.
support you or contradict it. So anyways, I do think a reason we struggle with obedience is uncertainty. To your point, I do think that's a big one. What are some other reasons that we might struggle with obedience?
I think another one too is, say if I have $10 on me and I feel I'm supposed to give a person money, that's a struggle.
Yeah.
If all I have on me is $10 and I'm on the road traveling, am I supposed to give that $10?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, that's trusting that God's going to meet all my needs while I'm being his hands and feet.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story that I've never told anyone.
Oh.
I was at a gas station probably 20 years ago, and something in me just said, go give this lady $10. And I only had $10 on me. And I was traveling
Oh, yeah.
alone with my kids, which
Okay.
I did a lot because my husband worked. I went over and handed her $10. And I said, I'm just supposed to give this to you. I have no idea why I'm supposed to give this to you. She was sitting in a car alongside. She was by herself. Handed her the $10. And she said, I was just praying for enough gas to get home.
Oh.
And so
Wow.
not only was that my blessing, I still get cringes thinking about it. Not only was that my blessing,
Yeah.
I just confirmed her prayers.
Yeah.
So really, God didn't need me at
Right,
all,
yeah.
but he gave us both that blessing.
Okay.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah,
That is a
that
really
is
cool
really cool.
moment.
I like that story.
No, I agree. I think that one thing that holds us back from being obedient is what is it going to cost me? We, as human beings, naturally, we worry about our own selfish selves. I think that's why when Christ said, this new law I give to you, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love others as yourself. He says that because no one struggles with like thinking about themselves. You think about yourself every day. I make sure I'm fed. I make sure I have water. I make sure like I don't I have a place to sleep tonight. But do I do that with others? Like that's where we struggle. We don't struggle with making sure we're good. So anyways, I say that to say sometimes we can get in our own way with obedience because we're worrying about ourselves and not trusting God. But I think doesn't Jesus say that the birds don't worry about their meal tomorrow, so why should you? You know what I'm talking
Something
about?
like that.
I'm like butchering that, I am sure.
You're butchering it, but I can't do
I'm
any better. So.
paraphrasing. Yeah. I'll tell you another. Did you have one?
Well, one what?
A reason people struggle with obedience?
Oh no, I think y'all hit the nail on the head. It's difficult, and I think I said it earlier, but when it doesn't make logical sense, that's my biggest. Often we like try to like talk ourselves out of it if it doesn't logically make sense. At least for me, it doesn't logically make sense. I think if it inconveniences other people, I get scared of it, and so kind of keeping in mind that if we're being called to do something, that should be like a priority.
One thing I can promise you is obedience is not always logical.
Oh yeah,
Boy, if we did things logically,
yep.
it would just never happen. But our logic here on earth is so different than
Yeah.
his divine logic. When he can see the past and the future and how they all are interwoven, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get to heaven and see all the times where our actions affected other people.
Yeah. In ways we have
Good
no
or
idea.
bad.
In
Yeah.
ways we
You
have
know.
absolutely no idea. Just a quick
That's
story. I said this on one of our episodes. I don't remember which one, but I was one time many years ago, I was an area supervisor for restaurants, and I was visiting one of the restaurants I was over. There was a lady there. I could tell there was something wrong. She's one of my employees. And so I just kind of went up to her and I was like, hey, are you okay? And she was like, I'm just really struggling with a personal problem. And I was like, let's talk about it. Come on. So we went to the corner and I was like, talk to me. She's, I'm really struggling with alcohol. I did my best to kind of like talk to her about it, help her get to the root cause, offer her some help, whatever. I left that day. 3 years later, I actually ended up owning that restaurant, went back to it, and she sees me and she runs outside and she was like, hey, I got to talk to you. And I was like, oh, hey, it's so good to see you. And she was like, hey, I got to tell you, 3 years ago, whenever you talked to me that day, I stopped drinking that day and my whole life has changed since then. I haven't had a sip of alcohol. She just changed my life. And I'm not saying that bragging myself. I didn't think about that. I left that day thinking, okay, I felt like I should talk to her. I did. And I forgot it immediately. I went to the next thing and didn't think about it a day since. And that was a cool moment because God didn't have to show me that, but God showed me like, hey, your obedience played out like that. Something
cool?
Good came of that. But to your point, I'm super curious how many hundreds of thousands of times do we do little things? It makes a big impact in someone's life and we have just no idea. So I would be curious, was there any time where there was fear with special kids early on, like when you guys were forming?
I never remember fear because the circumstances were so, I'll call them dire and overwhelming and lonely. My husband was gone. As supportive as he was traveling. He couldn't be there to help 5 of the 7 days. I had babies at home. AJ was only 5 years old when Special Kids opened. He was in kindergarten. So I had them there after school and evenings and nights painting and stuff like that. I don't ever remember fear. I think if God had allowed me to feel that, it may have scared me too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he knew that would have been more than I could handle.
Right.
But I've said that so many times, how he supernaturally just took that fear away.
Yeah.
I knew I was supposed to be doing it.
You felt so convicted.
I felt so
and you just stuck to that conviction.
sure. And again, I was even going to church every Sunday. This was, it became a passion.
Yeah.
And it was supernatural.
So, yeah.
So with obedience, kind of what do you think is the aftermath when we do obey? What kind of comes from that?
The number one thing I think that comes from it is just a sense of purpose.
Okay.
And that's very selfish. That's the selfish part. But God does say that blessings come from obedience.
Okay.
Now, should we do things just to get the blessings? No, of course not. And I think sometimes people feel like actions give the blessings. But I think God knows our hearts. But blessings are a part of obedience. God says that obedience is associated with blessings. But he knows our hearts. He knows what we really are doing it and why we're doing it. And it actually would scare me to do something just for a blessing, because that's not the way this works at all. You do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Can I touch on that real quick?
Yes.
So I say this a lot on our episodes because this is something that I think Christians really need to not just, we got to understand this, we got to believe this. But it's like what we call ourselves, right? Calling ourselves Christians is like this important. It's not that big of a deal.
Sure.
For those that can't see me because they're listening, my hands like trying to touch the floor. What we do, our actions are of much more value. However, ultimately, our heart on the matter, like why did you take that action
100%.
is what's most important. But that is the most important thing. So like true obedience is doing what you feel like God's calling you to do because God's calling you to do it, not for the secondary byproduct of like fame, fortune, or anything like that. I do not subscribe to the prosperity gospel. If I do what God says, he's going to make me rich or famous or whatever, might have good health. I don't think that's accurate. I say it to say it's your heart on the matter, why you do what you do, that matters most.
It also, in Deuteronomy 28, I believe, it says that if you faithfully obey the voice of your God. So again,
That's what I was about to read.
oh, cool. Great minds.
I got you. Deuteronomy 28:1. And if you faithfully obey the voice of the Lord your God, being careful to do all his commandments that I command you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you. So, and we have to remember that the word blessing, once again, doesn't mean like worldly blessings, and it doesn't even mean like you're the one necessarily going to be blessed, because a lot of obedience ends up blessing others. That's the idea that blessings will come from obedience.
But I think what's crucial to all this is, for me personally, and I know AJ feels this way and his dad feels this way, when you do something, you should never look for a blessing. Matter of fact, most of the time, no one should ever know you do it. That should be between you and God.
Yeah.
Obviously, doing Special Kids is very public, so people know what we do. But I get very insecure when people say, you did, because I didn't. God could have asked anybody to do it. I was honored that he got to ask lowly Carrie.
Yeah.
Because he could have asked anybody. But if you go ahead with, oh, I did this, you just got your blessing on earth. So you got the accolades and the credit while you're here on earth. I think I just would rather keep that between me and God and have it for eternity in heaven.
Right.
So when you do good works, I really believe, and I believe there's verses to support this, that you that should be between you and God.
Yeah.
You should not tell things that you do good.
Yeah, Jesus uses this metaphor of never let your left hand even know what your right hand is doing. That's how secretive you should be, is like you don't want anyone to know anything. And then he also talks about how those who do something and receive worldly admiration or worldly benefit for it have already received their reward, as opposed to
That's exactly what I'm saying.
as opposed to those
but-
that do it in secret as they should. Only their reward will be in heaven.
You'll hear all the time of godly men or godly women when they pass away. At their funeral, you hear all these things they did for people behind the scenes. You never knew. I found that out about my dad when he passed away. They say, "Oh, your dad came and paid my rent. Your dad came and did this and that, or came and worked on my project." I never even knew, because he would never have told us that. Okay.
I was gonna ask, what was the biggest way you were surprised by this? You're following this obedience of launching this nonprofit to serve these kids with special needs. Was there any really big wow moments where you got to see the incredible blessing of it?
Probably the most significant blessing I saw was early on, just a little girl that was laying in a bed. And when I read on her nursing notes, this child will never move, walk, talk. And a year later, I'm watching that same child run down the hall. That's life-changing right there. And then your obedience played a part in that. How cool is that?
That's so cool.
And once again, it's cool when God lets you get to see that.
It is.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, it's not always a guarantee. There's a lot of things we're going to do that for obedience that we're not going to get to see the benefit of, but you get to see it directly with special kids. It really is incredible.
I like to say, just to put it into the whole spectrum of things, is you have a mom and dad. So you have their one child. That child also has siblings. So now you've affected all the siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, everybody. When you have a special needs child, everybody gets involved in that care.
Yeah.
Everybody has to pitch in and help, maybe for the other children. So if we can just take a little bit of that load off that family, you've changed the whole dynamics. There's a 90% divorce rate in children with special needs.
Is it 90%?
According to the Respite Coalition,
Yeah.
90%. And so why can't we just step in and take a little bit of that pressure off?
Yeah.
If they know they're going somewhere where they're loved and their child's happy, it's just such a wonderful feeling for a parent. So I know firsthand.
Yeah.
My other daughter's child went to therapy somewhere just for toe walking. It was some minor. So special
I did
kids
that.
serves minor
Yeah.
things all the way up to big things. But the atmosphere was negative and it was very expensive. It was negative and sad and dull, and they left crying.
Oh.
And it was just, why do you want to go? Then they have to go home and cook dinner. I'll be happy.
Yeah.
The parent doesn't want to be there. This was not a path they would choose for themselves.
Yeah.
No one's going to choose this path.
I want to touch on the fact that Special Kids doesn't just serve the children, that it serves the families, because to your point, 90% divorce rate, because of there's a lot of stress, responsibility, workload that usually comes with having a kid with special needs. No family is prepared for it. They have the child with special needs. They're told, hey, this is what it's going to be like. Most of the time, they don't have adequate access to resources in the community, the right type of therapy. And so now the family has all this stress on them. Usually one of the parents has to quit their job to take care of the kid. So income-wise, that can be stressful. So I say all that to say, Special Kids comes along. They have trained professionals that give the type of therapy that the kids do need to help them get through whatever obstacle they have.
And
on
they
top
do it
of that,
lovingly.
Yes, they do it. Yes. So I was going to say, they do it all through this, whatever you want to call it, lens or filter of like Jesus Christ, of like showing love. And so it's okay, now the kids are getting love and they're getting shown kindness and they're getting the therapy they need. But then the parents and the families of the kids are seeing that. But it is really cool because even though a lot of the kids and their families that come maybe not call themselves Christians, we get to kind of pour into them that way through the nonprofit.
So why don't you all share kind of the therapy that is offered there?
Sure.
Physical, occupational, speech therapy, feeding therapy. At some point, we'll have ABA, which is behavioral therapy. So that's a big goal. At some point, we'd love to add in the nursing services here in Chattanooga. In Murfreesboro, we already have the nursing services.
So the nursing services, which is kind of like a daycare service, with trained professionals who are able
Right.
to take care of the kids. These are trained professionals. And that's what allows the parents to feel safe while they're at work or if they want to go have a date, whatever. They know the kids are being taken care of. Murfreesboro Special Kids has been around 27 years. And in Chattanooga, this is the exciting news, by the way, is that we're about to launch in the very
Next
near future.
week.
Next week.
We are seeing our first patient.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. I
So-
didn't know that.
By the
Yeah.
time this comes out, we should be seeing quite a few children.
Yeah,
Mhm. So it is really, really exciting.
that's amazing.
But it's such a unique model. There's nothing like it in the whole Southeast, I believe.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It is
That's
a very,
excellent.
very unique
Let me
model.
just reiterate, if you are a non-Christian, we welcome you with open arms. And if you don't want to hear about Jesus, we will do nothing but love you and do therapy.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, so,
Because Christ's actions are love. And
Right.
that's really all we're called to do. We don't need to do anything more
Yeah,
if that's
absolutely.
not what you want.
yeah, I was gonna say because some people have the aversion of going somewhere knowing that they're gonna be like preached at. It's like,
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
at
that's a
all.
good
Yeah.
point.
Not at
and
all.
if you don't want to hear about it, it doesn't. But
Yeah.
just know that where that love is coming from. That's
Yeah.
We're
you know, the
just there to
source.
provide a service and do it with love and compassion.
Yeah.
Like any child should need. I think what you also have to remember is the Bible gives us examples of obedience and the outcome. So you have Moses in the burning bush. You have Noah building an ark. Can you imagine how crazy people thought Noah was to
Yeah.
go? He talks about it. Then Jacob had dreams, right? And David had prophets helping him. So for every person, it can be different, but the outcome is still great
Yeah.
because it's God's plan, not ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Obedience isn't like a copy and paste thing. It can be different in every different
It
person.
is.
It's just what are you being called specifically to do? And a lot of the times it can be something that you specifically need to do. There's things that my beautiful, amazing wife here can help people with that I would have no skills or talent in, and I'm not
Right.
going to be able to help them with. But there are a lot of the times the obedience we're called to is because we are the ones that need to do it. It could be financial donations. It could be volunteering time. It could be starting something. It could be just listening to someone in need. Could be helping someone getting through a struggle. Could be, there's an infinite number of things.
So one thing that comes to mind when you said that, we have a board member. Her gift is connecting people. Her gift is, say, Special Kids needs a new slide. She might connect me with the playground company.
Okay. Yeah.
That is her gift, and she is
Yep.
amazing at that gift, and we just love her
is.
for that. She
That's
really
incredible.
is.
Yeah.
And really, she's been the first board member that's used that gift, but we are all given gifts from God. My gift might be, I'm a big dreamer. I'm going to go out. God's going to put something in my head. I'm going to go do it. If you want me to run the details of something, that is not my gift. That's why we had to hire a director because I can go talk all day long, but that's not my gift to do the details.
Yeah.
Everybody has a gift. You just
Everyone
have
has
to
a
figure out
gift.
what your gift is.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter your finances or anything else.
Yeah.
Everybody has a gift in a way
Yeah.
that can help others.
I agree 100%.
And finding your gift and not what you want your gift to be, because sometimes what you want and what it isn't different, and not what you think other people want your gift to be, because that's tricky
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you fall into this, well, this would be helpful to this person if I had this gift. But if you don't, you don't. Find what yours is and embrace that.
One of my favorite parables, because it's something I try and think about regularly, is this idea that we're all to summarize the parable, this man's given a certain amount of talents. He protected it. He didn't use it. He buried it. He didn't use it. And then the master says, "What did you do?" And he said, "I protected it." And so the master took it all away,
Yeah.
saying, "You fool! Like I gave you all this, you could have invested it." The whole point is like we're all given these different talents, and look, God's not gonna give copy and paste every person on the planet. Some of us are gonna be given 5, some of us given 2, some of us given 1. But here's the important thing: is the guy with 5 invested it. The point there is that if you use your talents, you'll be gifted with more. If you use your gifts, if you use the thing God gives you, you'll actually be gifted with more. And it's interesting how that I've seen that play out in my life as well as some others. Yep. And if you don't use them, if you do nothing with your life, you don't use the gifts God gave you, God will take it away. He'll be like, "You're wasting what I gave you."
I totally agree with you. And one of my favorite verses is, and I don't even know what the verse is, but to whom much is given, much is required. Now, that doesn't mean financial.
Yeah.
God gives us
Yeah.
all so many gifts as far as just our health, our voice, our
Yep.
talking, our platforms. Use your voice, use your platform, use your legs to go walk over and and
Yeah.
talk to somebody and your arms to put around somebody. Always try to think too is it's really not my money as much as I think it's mine.
Right.
It's all God's anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which comes back to that verse.
Whatever the
Times
gift
just
is,
talent.
yeah, it's your gift.
Or my
It's a
gift,
gift
or-
to you from God to be used in good stewardship.
Right.
And you should use it. And I think God can gift you with more if you're being a good steward of it. But we see here how if you don't use it, it will be taken from you because you're being a poor steward of it. I am a firm believer, not to get too heavy, but I'm a firm believer that as we're talking right now, as you guys are listening right now, there's horrible atrocities happening all over the planet. There's tons of evil, and there's a lot of need for good in this world. And I'm a firm believer that the only thing that's going to combat that is people with the capability. And I think those with the capability have the responsibility to do something about it.
Right.
And I think I think it's sinful to not use the gifts God give you to do good in this world, show love, follow the obedience, follow what the Holy Spirit's calling you to do. But once again, I'm just a firm believer that, those with capability have a responsibility. And I'm really excited to just, like I said, to have my mom on today and talk with this nonprofit because I am very proud of my mother. I know she didn't do it for that reason, but I'm very proud of my mom for doing something that was difficult and cost her. And even though there was no sure sign it was going to work out, and it's cool to see that obedience play out now.
It wasn't me. It was. I feel appreciative of God for asking me because I was so unworthy. I was so busy with life. He was on the back burner. That's really
Okay.
where he was.
Yeah.
He was right there on the back burner.
God
was.
Yeah. Okay.
Because life's busy when you're 30 something years old with children. It just is. And so God was not number one in my life. But he still used me.
That's incredible too.
That's so
he was
cool.
like, even
So
though I'm not your
it's God.
priority, you're gonna be mine. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
That's true.
And we met at a special kids event.
Talk
That
about a
was-
blessing. Yeah. Literally
That
met
was
my wife
cool.
at
Yeah.
a special kids event. Let's talk a little bit more about special kids. So we did a market study as a board to look and see where do special kids need to grow. And so we did a market study, saw that Chattanooga, Tennessee has an opportunity.
Right.
And so we started the expansion there. We're about to launch very soon. For those that maybe have heard about the mission and for those that are listening, hey, I might want to help in some way, what are some things they can do to maybe support this mission?
First off, the number one thing is just go on specialkidstn.com and then you can click on Chattanooga or Murfreesboro, either one.
Yeah.
But there's so many ways to get involved. You can come do a tour. There's opportunities for a monthly partnership, maybe giving of your time volunteering. There's all kinds of ways you can help. But if you just get on the website, you can see all about us, but they can follow that way and keep up with all the updates. So that's really cool way. Right now, just launching the beginning stages, I look back and think how cool it is to be a part of the beginning of something.
Yeah.
Again, this is not Chattanooga. We're located in Chattanooga, but we're centrally located for Cleveland, North Georgia, Alabama.
But Chattanooga's a hub. And so a lot of people from other cities actually kind of come to it. So we're trying to serve a very large number of kids is the goal. Yeah.
But what was really cool to me was, and you don't want to shout out either, but Special Kids Chattanooga came because AJ kept saying, okay, why didn't Chattanooga have one?
Okay.
Let's do this.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do this. Let's do this. I'm like, AJ, I'm tired. I've done this. It's 27 years later. I'm tired. And it just didn't feel like the right time when it first popped in our head in 2016 that we wanted to come to Chattanooga. That's how long it has been in our heads. And then AJ comes as a new generation and says, I'm not tired. We're going to do this. That's really what he was saying. So it took another generation. And then, of course, he sparks the rest of us.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, well, if you're in, we're in.
Right. Yeah.
Which is what happens.
Yeah.
Good deeds.
Yeah. It
Spark
passes
other
through.
good deeds.
It's amazing.
And then another thing we haven't talked about yet, Special Kids also does is camps. Because a lot of parents that have kids with special needs maybe aren't comfortable sending their child to the average camp. And so Special Kids has their own camps, which I think is really cool.
They do. So in Murfreesboro, they have the summer camp.
Yeah.
And children look forward to it every year because
It's actually happening right now, isn't
it's
it?
going on right now. Yeah. But it goes on for, I think, 8 weeks during the summer. They do an amazing job of summer camps, and they've been doing it for a while now. But think about it. Children with special needs don't get to go to camp. They
Right.
see everybody else going away to summer camp. They don't get to go to camp.
Yep.
So they get so excited and come from all over. Parents literally live in a hotel room, so their child can spend the week at special kids,
Yeah.
sometimes several weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are so excited. I know when my sister's little boy had special needs and he was going to camp at St. Jude. It was the only camp he could go to for children with cancer.
Wow.
So it was so cool because he got so excited because they accommodated his wheelchair and all his special needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It
amazing.
is. It's really, really incredible. So I really do think it's just phenomenal. Obviously, I'm very passionate about it. My mom founded it. I'm happy to be part of the expansion. My goal is I want to see them in every state before I die one day. So that's my mission. And I pray to God, hopefully that happens.
I think the basic fact is we miss opportunities to be obedient because we simply don't know. And we're unsure of what we're hearing and we're unaware of his attempts to get our attention.
Yeah.
So is it us? So I think that's the biggest thing is don't miss opportunities. And I know I do all the time, but I always question, I'm missing an opportunity to be a blessing to somebody.
I like that. Obedience is an opportunity. I love what the circle maker says, that your obedience is someone else's miracle. I would say for our listeners, is there any challenge you would give our listeners?
The biggest challenge is start listening to that inner voice. It's not just a bypass thought. Because if you're a Christian, that's most likely the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And again, it may just be, hey, checking on somebody, saying, picking up the phone, are you okay today? I'm like with AJ, I've had employees say, you know what you said to me 5 years ago? And I'm thinking, not a clue. I hope it was something okay.
Yeah.
But you changed my world by saying, and I'm sure I didn't change their whole world, but to them it was pretty significant. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Anything you have? Is there any challenge that you would give to our listeners on this subject?
I think to get out of your comfort zone, not only in obedience, but in other areas of life, so you get in the habit of following outside your comfort zone. So when obedience comes and you're called for that, getting out of your comfort zone is something you've done before, so you can
That
do
is
it.
good.
That's a good way to put it. It's almost like a muscle you have to train. Like you want to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because when it comes time to be obedient to something, it's not going to be comfortable. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
I would
you.
say, I would challenge and just say, there is somewhere where God is challenging you right now to be obedient. I would say that is happening. Identify what it is. Figure that out, because I think it is there for everyone.
And I think to your point just now is there's someone listening right now who something has been laid on your heart.
Yes.
I would love if it were special kids involvement.
Yeah.
But if it's not, maybe it's an involvement in something else. Maybe it's something you're just supposed to do. Maybe it's a word of kindness you're supposed to say. But just allow yourself the opportunity to just sit, and is that obedience that you can be a part of. And I do feel we've been blessed beyond measure. So I hope that one day that the Lord lets us see the outcome of some of the obedience ideas that we've had and things that have happened because we said yes. But don't ever underestimate, I think, saying yes to God's calling, because it may be something very small that could change someone's life for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There are things, I've said this on the podcast before, there's things that people have done or said to me that were in literally passing, like in the women's bathroom, said something and it's stuck with me in a good way until now. That things I say to myself to get myself to do things I need to do and things like that. And it's like, how many things are we called to do, called to say, called to whatever, that we don't realize will impact someone lifelong, you know?
Right.
It's that butterfly effect. There will be a link to Special Kids in our show notes if you're curious. And you also cited the website earlier too. And so I think that'll be a good resource.
Yeah.
There's something else too that we cited. Oh, the Circle Maker. We'll also put that in the show notes
Yeah, it's
too.
a good book.
Yeah.
And I've not read that. So
Oh,
I'm
it's
looking
so
forward to
good.
that.
Yeah. I've actually recently learned I've only read the student edition. I have not read the adult edition. So
You haven't even read
I
it.
haven't read it. So I need to read it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for just
Yeah.
Yes.
giving me the opportunity to tell about special kids. And
Yeah.
obedience is always
No,
close
I'm
to my heart.
excited. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for
Yeah.
coming. It's cool getting to talk about, first, obedience, something that I'm passionate about. Two, special kids, something that I'm passionate about. Getting to have my mom on our podcast is really cool. And so just to wrap up special kids, so I'll say just, we've kind of talked about this a little bit. So we need, for us to continue to thrive and grow, for those interested, we need prayers, right?
Number one.
We need prayers. We need that as an army of prayers. Volunteers would be great if you're in the area. We need people to spread awareness. So if you heard this and you have a platform that you would like to share it on, please connect with us. The easiest way is on our Instagram if you want to message us on there. But we would love to partner with you and spread the word about Special Kids and the impact it's making. We're never going to turn down financial support. We're in the middle of growth right now, and financial support is the limiting factor. So we could definitely use that. Grants, donations, anything like that. Connections there would be wonderful. But we're on this mission to serve.
If you're a therapist.
Do what?
If you're a PT, OT, or speech, and you're looking
If you're looking for a job. Yes,
Christian
if you are in the Chattanooga
organization.
area and you are a therapist and you want to come work with us.
PT, OT, and
speech.
And speech. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would love
Reach
to talk
out
with
to
you.
us.
Yep. Yep. So yeah. So we'll put all the information in the show notes for those that are more interested. But I think that's it. So great conversation today. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
having me.
Yeah. And as always, we've been Soul Lab, and we will see you next time.
Yeah. See you guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Soul Lab with AJ and Delaney. You can find all materials referenced from today's episodes in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our website for more episodes and stay tuned for the next release. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.